here with Toastmaster extraordinaire Dave Cartledge, who has an impressive 50 years with Toastmasters. Dave, could you give us a brief introduction on how you became a Toastmaster?
Well, back in 1973, I was asked to be on a TV program, a question and answer program on veterinary medicine, basically. And it was on rabies just because we happened to have some rabies cases in the city that came from Saskatchewan. You always have to blame somebody, right? Anyways, it just so happened that they were talking about rabies and the fact that when people get bitten, they don't make it most of the time, 99% of the time. I'm one of the ones who did make it, just because when I was at college, I got a vaccine against rabies, and I had a reaction. So I only took 2 out of the 3 doses. And when they took my titer, they found my protection level was 10 times higher than all my classmates. So I had a really good reaction response to the vaccine. And I just promote vaccines left, right, and center since then. But when I was first year in practice, I was in Ontario working away, and this little 6-week-old puppy came in, and the owner asked, does it have rabies? And it didn't show symptoms what I thought would be rabbit-like, so I said, probably not. It's pretty young. At 6 weeks of age, we can't even vaccinate for rabies. So I didn't think of it, but we kept the puppy in overnight. The next day, it wasn't looking much better, so I decided to take a blood sample with permission of the owner. And just as I put the needle in the vein, the puppy jumped and bit my thumb. I didn't think twice about it. I just thought, oh, that's not so nice. Mm-hmm. But we kept it overnight again. We were medicating at the time and giving it the fluids. The next day, of course, it was showing more typical signs like neurosis. It was hyperacidic. And when the TV station found that I got bitten by a puppy and I was still going, they wanted to interview me. So I went to the TV station with some other veterinarians, and they put makeup on, which I was very unused to having. And all of a sudden, we got in front of the TV camera, and he started asking questions. And I froze. Couldn't say a word. Just freezing. And I just told myself, I'm not going to have this happen again. So I was with an organization that had a person came from a Toastmaster club, and I liked his presentations and his calmness in presenting all kinds of reports. So I just said, that's what I'm going to do, join Toastmasters. And my wife, I was getting married at the time, and my wife got word of that, and she wanted to give me some kind of gift for a wedding gift, and she gave me the membership to Toastmasters.
That's an amazing story. I've actually heard that it's not fun. Those rabies, the rabies vaccinations aren't fun at all, are they?
Well, no, I had a reaction twice. That's why I didn't get the third one. My arm swelled for 3 days. But if a pet gets suspected rabies or dies from rabies, the family has to go through post-exposure injections. I contacted the company who made the vaccine, and they kind of said, well, with my reaction on just the vaccine, they thought the post-exposure would put me in the hospital for sure. So they just suggested take a booster and take your chances that way, because it's not a guarantee post-exposure will even get you through it.
Oh, but wow.
I'm doing just great.
Yeah, I can see that now. 50 years later, you know, you're still in Toastmasters. That's great. So for an icebreaker, if your life were a sitcom, what would its title be, and who would you have play your role, the leading role?
Well, you sent me that question, and I think Ron Howard would be my choice, and the name of the sitcom would be Happy Speaking.
That's great. After 50 years of Toastmasters, what advice would you give to a new Toastmaster member who's just starting on their journey?
Well, I encourage all new Toastmasters to look at the Pathways program. Think about different things they want to make speeches about, because every day they see things that they like to give a speech about. And I really encourage them to do that. Enjoy speaking. It's very nervous to make your first speech. There's no question. I was super nervous. The second one comes easier. The third one comes that much easier. And in Toastmaster environment and Toastmaster club, that's if you're going to make mistakes, make them there. And everybody's working towards the same goal of being a good speaker, and have fun doing it, giving speeches. I like to help a lot of other people, a lot of other Toastmasters. When I started, it was a men's club only. Now it's mixed club. In fact, I think the stats show 52% of all the clubs are women now, and they enjoy public speaking as much as men do. And I really think it's a great story to be involved with Toastmasters, to learn how to use your hands for gestures. And we actually was at a conference, a District 99 conference in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, and we had a 2014 world public speaker there, and he was dynamic, showing use the palm of your hand, don't use the back of your hand, use the palm of your hand, don't point fingers, always use the palm to communicate. Stand up straight when you're giving a speech, so as your clothing looks comfortable and straight. And all of a sudden he says you can win more contests that way. And he won the international speech contest in 2014. He was from Sri Lanka, very unique place to be from. I've heard lots of stories about Sri Lanka, how hot it is. And I actually just got back from Belize. I looked up Toastmaster clubs down there. They only had one, but they had a lot of Rotary clubs. And that's what I was actually in the Belize for, to meet up with Rotary.
But that's amazing. I wonder if that's why they also tell you, like, instead of pointing, like you'll see a lot of politicians, like they'll hold their hand like this, right? They won't actually point. And I've never heard the open palm thing, but that's actually really good.
Yeah. Holding your hand closed is not as effective either. There is a calmness when people see the palm of your hand. And I've never heard anybody say that before, but he was quite right. I've used the palm of my hand several times. And so instead of pointing, you gesture with your whole hand, and they could see the palm when you're gesturing. And that is very calming and very informative to a lot of people. So I use it quite a bit. I like to try to put my hands as much as possible. I've been told that when you're online like this, you have to put your hands almost right in front of your face in order for people to see them. But it's a very positive situation. And you don't learn those things in other organizations. You learn them in Toastmasters.
That's amazing, because a lot of clubs now are hybrid, and being able to have that accessibility to people all throughout the world, and seeing how they've adapted to using the open palm and hand gestures up here so you can still engage with people. That's great.
Yeah, I really think hybrid is the future. I love to be in person. There's no question. It's a lot of fun to be in person. But, we are in a lot of clubs are around the world now. I visit quite often a friend of mine in Maui online. I visit lots of clubs online. I live in Red Deer. Sometimes the weather outside in Alberta is not so great for driving. So I'll be online with some of my clubs instead of driving all the way to Edmonton, driving all the way to Calgary, or there's one in Innisfail as well that I belong to. But the weather is not so great sometimes, and online is a good alternative. In person is a little bit better, but there's pluses and minuses of both.
So do you have what would you say was your most memorable moment in Toastmasters? Anything that sticks out?
Yeah, well, the best memory I have is when I was division director, division F director, and I was working hard with two other directors in Edmonton, and we were trying to coordinate club officer training and things like that. And I would get some trainers for my clubs in my division and all my areas, and I would ask them what they're doing. And actually the other two division directors, they got quite busy. One was starting a new job, and he was very concerned about that, so he wasn't coordinating club officer training as much. And the other fellow, his girlfriend had a major health issue, so he wasn't as busy doing that either. So I'd say, well, you're more than welcome to send your members to my club officer training, and I'll let everybody know about it. And so that's what happened. I ended up with 3 divisions of club officer training, and back in those days, of course, it was more in person than it was online. But I got a lot of really great Toastmasters stepped up and say, "Oh, I'll help you train." And I just had no problems getting trainers, and the attendance was phenomenal. I actually had them even in the Bonnie New bowling alley where one club meets on Saturday mornings. Um, uh, they accommodated us in the evening because they weren't too busy, and so I was down more in the hard room areas and whatnot, and it was just great. And then when I went up to Grand Prairie, where our regional conference was, our District 42 conference at that time. We weren't split into 2 districts at the time. And I went up there, and that was the year I got my Distinguished Toastmasters plaque. So I took it with me to be presented in front of the camera. And then when it came to Division Governor of the Year, I for sure knew somebody else was going to get it just because I had lost the club. Not my fault at the call. I found out the last minute that the 3 mentors on this new club, 2 of them couldn't make it, and the third one was a little on the negative side. And everybody said, if he's not going to be there, we're not going to be there. So it was a corporate club too. So the corporation decided to fold the club. I did a lot of manipulation, phone calls, emails to try to offer myself to be a mentor for them. And even our district director at the time, I think the assistant district director, offered their help too, but they declined to do that. So when I got up to Grand Prairie, I thought for sure one of the other division directors was going to win Division Director of the Year. But when they announced the award, they called my name. And I said, "What? Really? Me?" So I just put a big smile on my face and went up to receive it. And I was ever so happy to receive it. I thank everybody in the audience to help me with getting that award, because it wasn't me by myself getting it. That reward was basically for everybody in my team that was helping me. And I was more than happy to receive it. In fact, the person who was giving the award, behind the award, John, I can't remember his last name now, but I met up with him in Edmonton after and thanked him very much for donating that trophy for the district. But it was just a real thrilling event, especially when I wasn't planning on receiving it.
Yeah, that would have been just a great surprise.
It was.
So outside of Toastmasters, what are some of your hobbies and interests that you have?
Well, Toastmasters is definitely one of them. When I go on holidays, I try visiting. I visited one in Shreveport, Louisiana. I visited one in Houston, Texas, in Las Vegas. And boy, the people, when you introduce yourself as a Toastmaster, they're more than happy to say hi to you, get you involved with the program. In fact, I won Best Table Topics in Houston, Best Table Topics in Vegas, just because the theme that they had for the meeting was on animals or pets. I'm a veterinarian by profession, so it's right up my alley. And so I talked about stories. I heard Mark Brown actually kept saying in a lot of his presentations, facts tell, stories sell. So I tell stories all the time, and boy, you win trophies. But anyways, I also golf. I even got a hole-in-one one time, luckily, me.
Oh.
And I curl when I can in the wintertime. It's a lot of fun. It keeps me exercised. I actually do Scottish country dancing as well. I got introduced to it one time when I went up to Edmonton for a Toastmaster meeting on a Saturday, and it was around January 25th. So I decided, gee, maybe I'll look up a Robbie Burns dinner. Sure enough, there was one on a Friday. Well, it was hosted by a Scottish country dancing group, and after your meal, they said, "You've got to work off some of those calories. Get on this dance floor," and I've been there ever since.
Oh, that's great.
So it's a lot of fun, and I do walking and hiking and things like that as well, just to keep myself a little slim and trim somewhat. It's just great. It's really great. And I'm still working too.
Oh, and working.
Yeah, it's mental and physical exercise at work, and it's just great for when you've been in Toastmasters for 50 years and get more stories that way to give speeches on.
That's true. So in closing, what is in store for your next Toastmaster adventure?
Well, I'm actually I'm getting a lot of publicity on my 50 years in Toastmasters. District 42 actually gave me a plaque, a very, very nice plaque.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I'm not sure you can see that. I'm not seeing it as well as I want to online, but
yeah.
Anyways, I'll send you a picture of it. And I happened to dig out my original certificate that I actually had framed.
Oh,
with
wow.
1973 on it. Oops, that's upside down. I'm going to turn it upside up. Anyways, it's signed by David Corey, and executive director was Robert D. Wolf. So can't read that writing actually. Anyways, it's significant that I got my original certificate from Toastmasters as well as this award for 50 years from District 42, and I'm very pleased. And they actually put an article that might show up in the Toastmaster magazine in the very near future. They put it on their district newsletter, and they actually communicated, when they sent it to Toastmasters International, the newsletter, the magazine, Toastmasters magazine, Toastmasters said they're doing something special for the longtime Toastmasters in Anaheim this year. So I'm hoping to make it to Anaheim again as a helping hand. That's where I got this beautiful vest from in Vancouver.
I was about to say, that looks great, yeah.
And I actually did that in Chicago too. And they charge you less for the registration fee when you're helping hand. All you have to do is donate at least 10 hours. Everybody wants to get donating. They just donate. Because it's a lot of fun to help Toastmasters at a convention. It's a lot of fun to meet other volunteers, helping hands from all over the world. And it's just a pleasure to be in the company of Toastmasters. Well, that's one of my future ventures. And of course, just continue on. I'm involved with 3 different pathways right now and 3 different clubs, and I'm going to really get more involved with that. I started all of them, but I haven't continued with their speeches, and of course that's a challenge. I'm always helping as much as I can to be Toastmaster or evaluator or table topic master, just whatever is needed in the club program to get a good meeting going. And it's a challenge because a lot of clubs now are very small in numbers, but we're doing as best we can. I've had a lot of people interested in my closest club called Central Alberta Sky Talkers, and we're online right now. We were the very first hybrid club in District 42 before we split, and a lot of clubs now are hybrid just because it's the in thing, but some clubs are going back to in person. Other clubs are staying online only. So there's lots of variabilities, and I'm just trying to visit as many clubs as I can. I visited a club in California a couple of times. It's online, and it's great fun. It really is.
Well, Dave, thank you. On behalf of D99 and Toastmasters, thank you for taking the time to do this interview with me. It's amazing to see your story and your answers in 50 years. That's amazing. And
it's been a lot of fun.
I love the motivation because, you know, when I'm new. I've only been a Toastmaster for 3 years, but it has been incredible for me. When I first arrived, I spoke all of 19 seconds. I know the timer was like, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself? And, you know, for my table topics question, and it was 19 seconds and I was done and I just froze. And now I can see them going yellow and then going into the red. So it really is an amazing organization.
It is. Yep. It's fantastic. I was 19 seconds, I'm sure, or less when I started too. And now, of course, I can talk and talk and talk. But one time I went to one meeting, I was area director at the time, and the weather was not so good outside. So I went to this meeting, and 3 speakers, 5 to 7 minute speakers, all of them didn't show because of the weather. So they asked for anybody in the audience, and most of us seasoned speakers, myself and a few others, said, yeah, we can give an impromptu 3 to 5 minutes. Sure enough. Wow. At the 5-minute mark, the red flag was flying, and everybody said, come on, sit down. We've haven't heard enough from them.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So it's a lot of fun, and you get a lot of pleasure out of it, but helping others is the biggest pleasure. And a leadership training you don't have to be the best leader the best is to empower others to be better. And that's what my motto, that's what I go by. A lot of other people do. My mother, she went to normal school back in 1938. And her motto from her yearbook, which I happen to find when I look at family history, it was 1 ounce of examples worth a ton of telling.
That's right.
And that's dear to my heart.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jane.